Hello, my name is Catherine, and this is the information session for the 12 affordable condos being made available at Alden's Reach in Plymouth. So the purpose of this session is to give a little bit of background information on the condos, but also I'll be covering the application and lottery process and what to expect after the lottery is run. So if you have any questions during this session, you're welcome to either unmute yourself or type them into the chat function in Zoom. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can always email us at info@sebhousing.com. That's the quickest way to get in touch with us with any questions on this lottery. So just for some background information on who we are, so SCB Housing, we are the consulting group that is helping the developer for these homes. So we've been hired by them to conduct this information session, but to also collect and review lottery applications, to determine applicants' eligibility, and to run the lottery eventually. So we're not part of the sales team. We haven't seen the homes in person, but we are going to be your initial contact during the lottery process. Later on in the process, if you are moving forward to purchase one of these homes, you will be put in touch with the development sales team. So there's a few steps in the process. The first is that you have to be found eligible for the affordable housing program to be able to be entered into this lottery. So you want to first submit a lottery application, which I'll talk more about. And during this process, we can answer any questions you might have. And when we get your application, we'll be doing a preliminary review of your application. You also have to submit a mortgage pre-approval for this lottery with your application, but you don't need to submit any other supporting documentation like pay stubs or any of that. That will come later on. The second step in the process, though, will be the processes of reserving and buying the actual home. So your opportunity to do that will depend on your waitlist placement after the lottery. So the lottery is held, then the drawing indicates the order in which the applicants are placed onto a waiting list. So if you're one of the top households on the waiting list, you will have top priority to move forward in the process. So if you haven't already done so, we suggest that you go to our website, scbhousing.com, and click on the Affordable Housing Opportunities page. If you select I want to buy, there is a page specific to Alden's Reach, and on that page, you'll see a downloadable version of the application, so it's a PDF. And there's also a sample deed rider that will be applicable to these affordable homes and a PDF of the information packet. So the information packet actually contains most of the information I'll be covering during this session. But even if you're watching this session, it is recommended that you take a look at that if you're interested in this opportunity, because not everything will be covered. So if you choose to apply to purchase one of these homes, again, you'll need to complete that lottery application first and attach your mortgage pre-approval. And you can submit those to us in one of several ways. So the most popular way is just to email it back to SCB Housing. You would send it to info@scbhousing.com as an attachment to an email. But you can also fax it to us. You can send it by regular mail. You can drop it in a 24-hour secure drop box at our office in Needham. All of that information is listed on the first page of the application. So you can pick whichever one of those options works best for you to get the application in by the deadline, which is January 6th, 2026. So you want to get those applications in before then if you're interested in this opportunity. Alden's Reach, so it has a website that is on your screen right now. So aldensreach.com. There's some more information about the amenities at this property, floor plans, the location, things like that if you want to take a look at it. But there has been several phases of the rolling out as construction continues for these homes. So this lottery is for 6 townhomes, They're in triplex buildings, so there's 3 homes side by side, and the homes are going to be sold at an affordable price to households that have at or below 80% of the area median income as their total household income. So we'll talk more about the household incomes in just a minute, but if your income is too high, you will not be eligible for the lottery. So Alden's Reach is located in Plymouth, and there's eventually going to be 172 homes, a pool building or clubhouse sort of thing, and it is located in Manamet, so the Manamet section of Plymouth near Shallow Pond Estates. And there is conservation land around the property, so it's a secluded area, which is great. There's some walking paths. These homes are coming in 2 different styles. So there's 6 that are what is called the Magnolia style home and 6 in the Alder style home. Both of the styles are going for the same price. So the affordable price is $337,200. The Magnolia style homes have 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms, and the Alder style homes have 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms. And there's over 1,800 square feet in both of the styles, and there is surface parking available for the buyer. The condo fee is $294 a month, and the full list of what is covered in that fee will be available, obviously, to buyers. So the affordable condos clearly are selling for a lower price than the market rate homes within the community. The market rate homes are selling for close to $600,000, and again, these are going for $337,200 too. So the homes are being made available at affordable prices, and the only households who qualify for the affordable housing program are going to be able to enter the lottery for these homes. The sales price is based off of a formula that the affordable housing program has, and it's based off of the area median income. Plymouth falls within the Boston area median income, so that is how those are calculated. Since these are affordable homes, they're going to have what's called a deed rider filed along with the deed at the time of closing. So that deed rider is going to ensure that the home remains affordable in the future, even if the initial owner decides to sell. So just a quick overview of what kind of 3 main points are listed in or are included in the deed rider. The deed rider limits the amount for which the property can be resold for. So this opportunity isn't for you if you're looking to buy, flip, or resell a home within a year or 2. It doesn't mean you won't be able to sell the home for a profit, but it is going to need to be resold to another affordable buyer. So there's going to be some involvement from the state, and they would let you know the exact resale price that you would be able to sell the property for eventually. It has to be your primary residence, so it can't be rented out as an investment property like an Airbnb or a Vrbo. And then the deed rider also says that if you want to make financial improvements to the home or refinance, you would need to have Mass Housing approve of that. That's the agency that's overseeing the affordable housing program. But again, these are brand new homes. You might not be thinking about making those types of improvements right now for many years anyway. As I mentioned, you do need to submit a mortgage pre-approval with the lottery application. So if you haven't done so already and you think that you're interested in this opportunity, we suggest that you head over to the bank and try to get that mortgage pre-approval for yourself. We also suggest, if you are going to get your mortgage pre-approval, we suggest that after you review the information packet that is available on our website, we suggest that you take page 8 from that packet and bring it with you to the bank or the lender. And that's because it lists the mortgage pre-approval standards for this opportunity. And you want to be able to, or you want to confirm with the bank that the mortgage product that they're offering you is going to meet the necessary standards of the affordable housing program. So you might also want to bring the deed writer with you so that they know what the stipulations are for the affordable unit. Sometimes they can be problematic for some lenders, so you want to make sure that they're aware of them up front. Certain loans are going to accept the terms of the deed writer. For example, the loan needs to be a fixed interest rate throughout the term of the mortgage, and you don't want to be in a situation where you were pre-approved, but the lender or the bank was not aware of these restrictions associated with the affordable housing program. And then along those same lines too, we like to let people know that in our experience, it has not been possible for applicants to close with Bank of America as their lender. So it may just be that their mortgage products are not suited for affordable homes, but just keep that in mind. In general, you can use any bank you would like. We do just recommend that you choose someone who has experience with affordable housing programs. So in the information packet, there is a link to, on page 10, there's a link to Mass Housing Partnership's website. And their site is a great source for anybody to find lenders who are familiar with affordable housing. And if you go on there, there's dozens and dozens of lenders. So pretty much every bank in the area, you're going to be able to find something. So the mortgage pre-approval standards state that you have to provide a down payment of at least 3% of the purchase price. Half of that, so 1.5% of the purchase price, has to come from your own funds, unless you're receiving a grant or a down payment, or down payment assistance, I should say, from a nonprofit or other entity like that. So if you have some sort of a grant that is coming to you for this opportunity, you wouldn't need to put down that 1.5%, but otherwise you do need to have to put half of that 3% down from your own funds. So what that means is the mortgage amount can be for up to 97% of the purchase price. All right, so in terms of, oh, sorry, I see a question here. So your question here is the mortgage pre-approval for 337.2? So that's the purchase price. The mortgage, you're going to need to have 97% of that purchase price, because the other 3%, like I just mentioned, is going to come from your own funds. So 337.2, you would need to qualify for a mortgage for about $327,000. I wouldn't know if a lender would be qualifying you based off of just knowing your income. So the bank would be able to tell you if you would qualify for their mortgage product. I can't, just based off of your income, tell you that, because there's other factors that they're going to be looking at. And the same with the monthly payment. It's going to vary depending on where you go and which bank and credit scores and things like that. So there's other factors that they're going to be looking at to give you that information. But definitely when you go in to get a mortgage pre-approval, they'll be able to let you know that. So in terms of applying, or in terms of being eligible for the affordable housing program, the four main, eligibility criteria is on your screen now. I've talked a little bit about the income limits here. Households also have to qualify as what the program refers to as a first-time home buyer. So a first-time home buyer means that households can't own a home now at the time of application, and can't have owned a home within about the last 3 years. Or sorry, there are exceptions to it, which I'll go through as well in just a minute. But even if you qualify for one of those exceptions, you would need to have sold your home by the time you're applying for an affordable condo at Alden's Reach. The second eligibility criteria, like I said, these maximum income limits. So if your household is a one-person household and you make over $92,650 a year, you're going to be considered over income and not eligible for this lottery. And I'll talk a lot more about that in just a minute. You have to have a pre-approval like we've talked about. And then this doesn't come up too often, but households can't have financial interest in the development or be what the program refers to as a related party. So if you're related to the developer, if you work for the developer, you wouldn't be eligible for the lottery. So to circle back on a first-time home buyer, all household members are considered first-time home buyers if they haven't within the last 3 years owned a home. So that includes through joint ownership. So if you've owned a home with a partner or a spouse, sometime in the last 3 years, you're considered to have been one of the owners if you're on that deed. There's 5 exceptions to the first-time homebuyer rule. They're listed in the information packet, but the 3 exceptions that come up the most often, I just want to kind of highlight for a second. So the first is someone that's being referred to by the program as a displaced homemaker. So that's someone who has not worked outside the home for many years. They're caring for the home, for the family. They may have owned a home, or they did own a home with their ex-partner or spouse, but they no longer own that home due to a recent legal separation or divorce, and they're now off the home deed. So if someone like that someone that fits into that category had owned a home in the last 3 years, they could still be considered a first-time home buyer. The second exception is a single parent with at least joint custody of a child that is now looking for a home because of a family breakup. And then the third exception is an age-qualified household. So someone who is over 55 and that person recently sold a home to purchase an affordable property. So again, if any of those exceptions apply to you, you still would need to sell your home before buying a condo at Alden's Reach. So that might mean finalizing a divorce or making sure that you're otherwise no longer on the deed of the property. And then the income limit. So the eligibility criteria here, the income limit is kind of like the main focus of the program. So since these are affordable condos, they're being made available to purchase at lower prices. And because they're only being made available to households that earn under 80% of the area median income. So these amounts are by household size. So as you can see, the one-person household would need to make under this amount, and then it goes up from there. Again, you're not required to submit verification of your income with this lottery application. It's just the mortgage pre-approval and you self-reporting your income on the lottery application. But later on in the process, you will need to submit verification. So if you're approved for this lottery, you'll get an email with a link to a documentation requirements guide, which is kind of giving you a heads up on what you will need to submit eventually. Everyone will need to submit the last 3 years of tax returns, and then that document will let you know how many pay stubs and benefit statements and all of that. And just to give you a basic overview of how your income will be counted, even though we're not going to be looking at it right now or during the lottery application process, income for this program is counted as a projection of your income over the next 12 months for all household members. So everyone in the household, if there's wage income coming in, benefit income coming in, we need to count all of that. The only exceptions are minors. So if there's a 16-year-old in your household who's earning a wage, we're not going to count that wage income. And then also dependent full-time students. So maybe you have a college student who's 21 that's living with you. If they're working, they're earning a wage, it's only the first $480 per year that we would be counting. And the program does require that we count your gross income when we're looking at your total household income. So that's the amount you make before taxes, even though most of us are not taking home the full amount of your salary. But the program does require that we do that. So some applicants are going to have a salary that's consistent throughout the year, but there's other people who might be self-employed or working seasonally. So in those circumstances, we may need to look further into your past to be able to project what your anticipated income is for the next 12 months. So we might need more pay stubs from you, for example, or if you're self-employed, you would need to complete a profit and loss statement to show your business expenses and all of that. But in general, any income that you have been making, we're going to assume that you are going to continue to make it going forward unless we have something definitive showing that you're no longer at a certain job, for example. Your tax returns are going to show which jobs you were at or which income you were reporting in the last year. So when you're filling out your application, just make sure that you're filling it out completely and you're not just listing wage income. You want to list, any Social Security, pension income, child support, anything like that is considered income. There is a $75,000 asset limit. So when we're talking assets, it's not just cash and savings or checking accounts, but also the net cash value of stocks or retirement accounts, Venmo, PayPal, that sort of thing. And you might think it's a little strange that we have to count the money you have tied up in a retirement account, since many people might not be looking to draw from that account for many years. But the program does require us to do that, since you could, in theory, withdraw funds from those accounts, like 401ks or 403bs. But it is the post-penalty amount or the net cash value that we would count. So if you have a retirement account, you would be asked to get a letter from that financial institution who holds your account, and they would be able to list for you the post-penalty amount. So the amount that would be deducted, that you would get if you were to cash out the funds today. And then we wouldn't need information related to personal assets like cars or jewelry or anything like that. But in terms of assets, that $75,000 amount is the max. And then, so if I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in this opportunity, you should get the process started as soon as possible. We'll review your application and contact you if there's any missing information or if it appears incorrect. If you are found eligible for the lottery, you'll be sent a lottery application number in the form of a series of numbers. That's just an anonymous identifier for you. That is the number that will be drawn in the lottery, so we're not calling names during the lottery drawing. So if you're the very first person to be approved for this lottery, your number would be A.001. And like I said, the lottery application deadline is January 6th, and the lottery itself will be held virtually on January 15th. It would be in the same format as this, so it's a Zoom meeting, and there will be a screen share. And we send the waiting list to all of the applicants immediately after the lottery, once we have sorted the results. Every lottery number is chosen. So sometimes you think of lotteries and you think, okay, there's 12 homes. If there's more than 12 applicants, we're only going to be drawing 12 of them. But that's not how these types of lotteries work, because it's just informing us as to what the order of priority on the waiting list will be. So all applicants will have a position on these waiting lists. And if you're watching the night of the lottery, you might not know what your placement is during the drawing itself, because we still need to sort the results. So certain household types, larger households who have more members, are going to have priority over single-person households, for example, because these are 3-bedroom condos. So you want to keep your lottery application number in mind, because when we send the waiting list to you, you're going to find your lottery application number on the waiting list, and then at that point you'll have a better idea as to if you're at the top of the waiting list, if you're going to be called forward to move on to the next step in the process, which is to submit all of your income, asset, and tax documentation to SEB Housing so that we can confirm your eligibility for this opportunity. Because remember, up until that point, you haven't submitted any of your income information to us. So you'll have about a week to get that information into SEB Housing, so all of your pay stubs and everything. But many applicants don't submit a 100% complete application to us on the first try, and that's because there's just a lot of information that's required, and also because sometimes we have further questions for you once we see your, bank statements, for example, and we just encourage everyone to kind of get everything in order before the time comes. But we always work with you. If you are missing anything, we'll let you know, and you'll be given another chance to get all the information into us. So ultimately, if you're found eligible for the lottery, or I'm sorry, after the lottery, if the top households are found eligible for the affordable housing program, our next step is to send your file to the monitoring agent, which has been assigned by Mass Housing. And they will then do a review of your file to give us the green light to let us know if you're eligible to move forward in the process. Once the monitoring agent has reviewed your file, the process becomes similar to the steps you would be taking if you were purchasing a market rate home. And I should mention too, at this point, you're able to hire an attorney if you would like to. So they can help you navigate through the process. We encourage that. It is a big decision, obviously, purchasing a home. So you want to make sure you're understanding everything and you're well represented. So once the monitoring agent has approved your application, we'll put you in touch with the owner or the developer of the unit to schedule a time to tour the condo if you haven't done so already. At that point, you will complete a reservation agreement reserving one of the homes. And in order to reserve the homes, you need to provide a $500 refundable deposit. After reserving the home, you'll have about 10 business days to sign that purchase and sale agreement, which is one of the last steps in the home buying process. At purchase and sale, you'll be required to deposit the 1.5% sales price minus the $500 that you've already paid to reserve the unit. So your purchase and sale agreement might include certain agreed upon contingencies and a closing date, and the finish line is near after that P&S is signed. Once it is signed, you'll need to go back to the bank who issued your mortgage pre-approval and then obtain a mortgage commitment. The process varies a little bit depending on which bank you are using, but in general, they need to review all of your documents up until this point, so they're going to want to see the purchase and sale agreement, the deed rider. They'll do an appraisal of the condo, and all of that. Then SCB Housing has to do a final eligibility review of your finances. So that's because households have to remain eligible for the affordable housing program up until closing. So about 3 to 4 weeks before your closing date, we have to conduct a file review. So we might ask for updated pay stubs, bank statements, a mortgage commitment letter that you now have. And once again, the monitoring agent that has been assigned by the state needs to review your file one more time to confirm that your eligibility for the affordable housing program has been maintained. And then you can move towards closing after those approvals. And once you've closed on the home, you can move in. There's no future income or asset eligibility reviews. And so you don't have to worry about, if you get a raise next year and 5 years from now, will you no longer be eligible for the home? No, that is not going to be a problem. I like to mention, because sometimes it's asked what the taxes for the condo are going to be. So the Plymouth tax rate is $12.69 per $1,000. So the annual tax rate for these condos are estimated at about $4,300 per year. And that's based off of the affordable sales price. So the taxes on the home are not based off of the market rate estimate. It is the affordable sales price, which is good. That about covers everything I wanted to get to from the information packet. So if you're reviewing this after the fact and you have any questions for us, once again, please contact us at info@scbhousing.com, and we look forward to getting your application. Have a good evening.